Now, next thing I know, I seen this bright light up in the sky. And aliens was everywhere.
What's fascinating to me is that this site is so close to the Zona de Silencio, which fringes this area as well, and the strange craft that was involved in the 74 incident overflew part of the Zone of Silence.
A circle of roughly 300 square kilometers, centered near the junctures of the states of Durango, Coahuila, and Chihuahua. It gets its name because it is believed that radio and television waves are sporadically silenced here for no reason. What's fascinating about this area is that the reported unidentified object seen in Jalitla in 2007 also flew over the zone of silence before making a sharp turn toward Jalitla. What is it about this area that causes it to have such an effect on these objects?
It's noted for its anomalous activity, UFO sightings, apparitions, and it's considered as Mexico's Bermuda Triangle.
The zone is an area with a long history of physical and magnetic anomalies. Compasses have been reported to go haywire and swing wildly, which can fatally affect aircraft guidance systems.
The Great Pyramids. For years, scientists have studied these great marvels of architecture, and through the years there has been conjecture as to the date and who was responsible for the construction of these great wonders of the world. The Great Pyramids are located in the continent of Africa, in Egypt, in the Great Nile Valley. The construction of the Great Pyramids has been the focus of controversy over many years. Some theories of the construction of the pyramids involve technology provided by an extraterrestrial race. Other, more conventional thoughts, such as Egyptology, place the construction of the pyramids at around 2550 BC for the pharaoh Khufu. Regardless of the specific origin of who built these structures, the more important issue as it relates to the pyramids is where the pyramids were constructed. The placement of each of the stones in the Great Pyramids, each weigh 2 to 2.5 tons, were placed in accordance to a sacred geometry. The term sacred geometry is a term used by archaeologists and anthropologists and geometricians to encompass the religious, philosophical, and spiritual beliefs that have sprung up around geometry in the various cultures during the course of human history. In the case of the Great Pyramid, the geometry of its construction and the shafts, which lead out of the king's chamber, at the time of the construction of the Great Pyramids aligns with the constellation Orion, and the 3 pyramids aligned with the belt of Orion, as the Egyptians put great emphasis in their society on the cycles of the stars and the sun. The geometry of the Great Pyramids at Giza contains the golden ratio. The golden ratio is approximately 1.61803, which happens to be the ratio of a diagonal of a pentagon to its side. With the height of the Great Pyramid being 146.515 meters and the base 230.363 meters, and by using simple math, the half of the base is 115.182 meters, and the slant height 186.369 meters. Now by dividing the slant height by half of the base gives 1.6180, which is practically equal to the golden ratio. A concept not found until centuries later by the Greeks, yet the pyramids are said to have been built as long as 3000 BC. The existence of this formula in a civilization that was centuries away from its existence is one of the main points of contention in determining the builders of the pyramids. Regardless, if the builders of the pyramids were extraterrestrials, or the great Egyptian civilization that had received handed-down technology, or just hundreds of slaves that constructed the pyramids over many years, the construction of the Great Pyramids at Giza continue to astonish the hundreds of thousands that visit them each year, and remain a modern marvel of architecture, geometry, and one of the greatest achievements in Western civilization.
A space-time vortex around Earth, presented by Science at NASA. Would you believe Earth sits in the middle of a space-time vortex? Einstein predicted this almost 100 years ago, and it turns out to be true. On May 4, 2011, researchers announced that NASA's Gravity Probe B spacecraft has detected the vortex, and its shape precisely matches the predictions of Einstein's theory of gravity. The space-time around Earth appears to be distorted, just as general relativity predicts, says Stanford University physicist Francis Everett, principal investigator of the Gravity Probe B mission. Time and space, according to Einstein's theories of relativity, are woven together, forming a four-dimensional fabric called space-time. The mass of Earth dimples this fabric, much like a person sitting in the middle of a trampoline. If Earth were stationary, that would be the end of the story. But our planet spins, and the spin should pull the dimple around in a four-dimensional swirl. This is what Gravity Probe B went into space in 2004 to check. The idea behind the experiment is simple. Imagine trying to spin a toy top on the dimpled surface of that trampoline. It's going to wobble, right? Something similar happens when you try to spin a gyroscope in curved space-time. Its spin axis will drift, or precess. Gravity Probe B carried some super-spherical gyros into Earth's orbit to see what they would do. In practice, this simple idea is extremely difficult. According to calculations, the twisted space-time around Earth should cause the axis of the gyros to drift by a tiny amount. Really tiny. It's like measuring the thickness of a sheet of paper held edge-on 100 miles away. Even the slightest disturbance could ruin the experiment. We had to invent whole new technologies to make this possible, says Everett. The Gravity Probe B team developed a drag-free satellite that could brush against Earth's atmosphere without disturbing the gyros. They figured out how to keep Earth's magnetic field from penetrating the spacecraft. And They created a device to measure the spin of a gyro without touching the gyro. Pulling off the experiment was a big challenge, but after a year of data taking and nearly 5 years of analysis, the Gravity Probe B scientists appear to have done it. The gyro's precessed, the vortex is real, and we are in it. Einstein was right again. For more information about the space-time vortex and what it means to us on Earth, please visit science